The Sustainable Voice, bringing you big successes from small places worldwide.
Hey, welcome back, Lee. Welcome back to the Sustainable Voice, everybody.
Hi, Ashish. I'm happy to be here with you as always.
Absolutely. And we got new tech.
We do. I'm feeling so fancy and a little bit uncomfortable at the same time.
That's awesome. Well, I mean, hopefully, we've been waiting to see if Nellie photobombs us. We'll have to explain who Nellie is during the course of this episode.
I put her away. I don't think she probably won't photobomb us today now.
All right. Well, so those of you who don't know who Nellie is, you have to go back to a few other episodes, or maybe she'll show up in a future episode. But basically, if you ever watch Goldfinger, and I'm a Bond junkie, and there's that scene at the end where Goldfinger is holding this white cat, and Sean Connery's character says, "You expect me to talk Goldfinger?" And that's a horrible impression. But of course, you know, the villain, Goldfinger, says, "No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die," as he's stroking this white cat. Or for those of you who are 90s babies, we could actually talk about Austin Powers, because that was the one where Austin Powers first meets Dr. Evil. He's got this cat, and it's Mr. Bigglesworth is the name. Same white cat. You know, and he's basically saying, "Can I just get some freaking lasers on some freaking sharks?" Honestly. So...
Well, her full name is Nellie Hot Pants, so she definitely deserves a starring role in some.
That is totally a villain name. Well, that's another name too, but it's a villain name for sure.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we could make our own Bond movie right now.
We could.
We could totally make our, record another day.
We'll have to do that.
That's it. The podcast Who Love Me.
Oh my God, don't get me started.
There's a bunch of different things we can do. Well, let's explain to our listeners why we got all this new tech, right? New cameras, new mics, new backgrounds. Like we have our real backgrounds. Everybody can see that we don't live on Mars. We don't live in some concocted studio. We do live in green America. We do have lots of vegetation around us, and this is not a green screen. It's real.
Yep, it is.
I'm telling you. So the main reason we did it is because I don't know if you know this, but we hit a record for the number of new downloads and new listeners this last month for our podcast. Our little fledgling podcast is no longer as fledgling as it once was. Now it's semi-fledgling, not fully
We're being
fledgling.
seen. That's so exciting.
I feel like Stuart Varney was Saturday Night Live. He sits in front of the mirror and goes, "I'm good enough. I'm smart enough. And gosh darn it, people like me."
People like me. I think they like our kids. Our kids those two episodes are the two that did well. Although you have some others that have continue to do well. Timeless.
Well, we've had we had one that was about local ownership in Costa Rica, and that seemed to strike a chord because that's still one of our top listened episodes. So we're going to be playing off that because we have a similar topic in Chile. It's a 2-part episode that we're going to be talking about. But yeah, our kids killed it. I mean, between Caroline and Shiv, I've been getting messages all weekend because it looks like the short for Shiv's video started dropping. And I'm sure you got when Caroline's dropped, and it was basically just, "Oh my gosh, the student is now the teacher, and oh, he's not a kid anymore. He's a man. Look at him. He's holy cow.
He's amazing. That was terrific. I can't wait to have him again. And
Likewise,
you need to
Caroline.
dad brag for a minute because I know he has chosen his university.
He sure has. He is going to be a Gator. He's going to be a University of Florida Gator. It is official now, and we couldn't be happier.
That's great.
It was one of his top choices. He's worked really hard. And God, your daughters went through Clemson. You know what this is like. You know what that moment where they get in, and you just And I was telling somebody this morning, that moment where they get in, you kind of, two things go through your mind, or for me anyway. One was you're just proud. And the second, you start counting all the different times that they weren't just pulling at all your nerves, they were jumping on them. Just basically just to the point where it was frayed, where you were ready to basically pull your fingernails out with a plier.
Yeah.
It was like to them. And then you're like, okay, well, it was worth it.
Yeah. And for me, relief. I was like, whew, they got in.
Yeah. I didn't mess it up.
I don't know why. I feel terrible even saying that because of course they would have gotten in, but still I was like, maybe they won't get in anywhere.
No, my wife was a little bit like, well, what if he doesn't get it? I'm like, he'll be fine. And I remember I had a conversation with him. I said, you're going to have some good choices to make. You worked hard. You're going to go to a good school. I said, so just enjoy the process.
Yeah.
You worked hard, enjoy the process because the work's about to get even harder. So I did tell him that. I'm like, if you enjoy, celebrate, pat yourself on the back, but make it short, because whatever hard work you think you're doing, it's about to get 10 times harder. And I said,
Yeah.
that's
He's
what
up for it. He's up
he's
for
up
it.
for it.
You
Kelly, I mean,
prepared him well.
I would thank you, and so did you, because we were
Mm.
talking about Carolyn as well and what she's going to be doing. And yeah, it's good to see, and I think we should definitely have them on. There's a couple of different episodes we have coming up during the year that I think they'd be good fits for.
Yeah.
In terms of it, so it's there. And you know what? We could record one episode while I'm up in Canada visiting my in-laws, my sister-in-laws, because one of them, my middle sister-in-law, has a white cat, like a fluffy white cat.
Oh,
We could do a full-on Bond rendition during one of our episodes.
we could. I could have Nellie. You could have your sister-in-law's cat.
Billy
It
Boo.
could be a whole thing.
Absolutely. It's Billy Boo. I'll be Blofeld. You'll have Nelly, and then we can make up an evil character for you. Or better yet, we can just both. I'll dress up as Blofeld. You dress up as Doctor Evil.
There you go.
Done. Perfect. As you all can see, the success of the podcast has clearly gotten to our head.
It
Just
has.
kidding.
What are we here to
Just
talk
kidding.
about today?
Well, I mean, because of that episode that was so successful in terms of local ownership, we wanted to talk about what's happening in Chile, because there is a rift, a massive rift between the local owned lodges, the local community, and the increasing number of foreign entities that are buying the lodges in Chile. And I want to preface this. As we go through this is going to sound like I am villainizing the lodges in Chile. I'm not. I am definitely not. Right? This is not an episode that says don't sell your business. This is not about that either. But we are specifically talking about the tourism apparatus and understanding what it is, right? Before we jump into Chile, let's talk about Botswana real quickly. Right? Botswana has this issue where many of the lodges in Botswana are owned by foreign entities, either in South Africa or in Europe or some of the US, but they're foreign entity. The thing is, Botswana's always known about that. It has always been the case. And it's, whenever they've tried to institute rules like no hunting, for example, banning all hunting, it has backfired because of the limits on the apparatus. But they understand that, right? So Botswana's made great strides. What we're going to talk about here is that Chile, and more specifically the Chilean government, doesn't understand that. And they never have. What's the phrase? Took the bag and run, right? Take the bag and run.
Mm-hmm.
They were given a bag, and that bag represents the land that is now known as Patagonia. It was donated by the Tompkins family, and they just took the bag and run. Fine, okay. But I think this is very important to understand, and I want to basically start and give everybody a Cliff Notes version of this. How familiar are you with Chile?
I've never been. I'm familiar because I do educational type sessions all the time on it, but that's it. I mean, that's very different than actually being there.
Sure.
So, yeah.
Okay, so the Patagonia brand.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a great brand, great product. I'm a customer myself. They're fantastic. So the Tompkins family donated a bunch of land that is now known as Patagonia, right? Torres del Paine National Park and other parts of Patagonia. They've donated this land. And so we out here could basically be saying, wow, that's huge. But when it was donated, the tourism industry and the government in particular had a responsibility to say, if we're going to build tourism out the right way with this land that's being donated, because it wasn't done yesterday, it was done decades ago. If we're going to do this, then we need to involve the local community, right? Mm-hmm. We can look at case after case after case around the world where when the local community has been part of any kind of discussion involving tourism, it's a success story. Right. I gave a presentation to the World Travel Tourism Council. I think we talked about this before, where we talked about key indicators that tourism boards could use. And it's not number of arrivals, it's number of people that work in tourism as a percentage of working population. It's how far they live from the tourism epicenters as a measure of affordability. It's how much hotels charge for their stays versus their expenses, because most of them are out of whack. Mm-hmm. Their expenses far outweigh, especially in the rural parts of countries, it far outweighs what they charge. Not all countries, but it's there. But there are different indicators. But the key driver was the local community, engaging the local community, making sure they understand, right? So, for example, being able to track, transport companies and realizing that they understand that international tourism is driving them, which is why they buy certain cars, why they actually are renewing their inventory, their fleet at different times and whatnot. Drivers, guides, everything else, right? There are no countries where guides have no longer become guides by accident. where they can't find jobs in their field, so they become guides as a fallback. Now they're going to as guides in many countries, right? In Kenya, for example, decades ago, I was an accountant or a teacher. I couldn't find work, so I became a guide instead. And now I'm a part of a Maasai community. I became bronze certified at the Wildlife Education Center, which used to be the Kiriaki Guide School. And now I'm guiding because this is what I want to do. There's a difference. When you go talk to guides in Chile, they are amazing. When you go talk to the naturalists that are in the national parks, they're amazing. And some of them are here for temporary because they're in school. Some of them, it's because it's a means to an end. Some of them, it's not a fallback. You know what's missing from Chile? The local people.
Why is that?
So think about this, right? Have you ever re-gifted something?
Come on, be honest.
Be honest. Be honest.
I have.
Yeah, me too. I have. I have too. Okay. And re-gifting, and those of you listening, don't judge. You've re-gifted too. Don't lie. You've re-gifted too. We all know. Lee and I know you've re-gifted. Don't act like you haven't. Come on. Whether it's, Aunt Betty's tie or the sweater that Uncle Fred gave you. Come on. We all know you re-gifted. Come on. It's okay. The thing that's really key, and I think we'll add to this, what if it wasn't yours to re-gift? That's basically what's happened in Chile. Right? This land was donated, right? We sit here going, wow, that's incredible. You know what's happening on the ground? And we just saw this firsthand. One of my colleagues went to Chile and saw this firsthand, where there's this disparity, right? Where the local people, in many cases, see hotels as conquerors, as oppressors. They see the Tompkins family. One particular person I spoke to, who spoke for several in the community, said they're slave owners. Now, we can stop and say, well, that's Tompkins family. They're bad. No, it's not on them. They had the best of intentions in what they were doing, right? It's not on them. This was land that they felt was needed to be protected. It was on them. The locals say it wasn't their land to give. I get it. That conversation happens all over the world, right? Whether it's Native Americans, Nunavut's, whatever the case, it happens all over the world. The indigenous communities all over the world are now talking about land rights in every part of the world, whether it's Australia, whether it's the western part of the U.S., eastern part of the U.S., Canada, whatever the case. It's a conversation that's occurring all over the world. But when you start thinking about Chile, you had this land that was donated. It was the government's responsibility to come to the people, the Huiliche, the Mapuche, the everybody else, right? And yes, is it perfect? No. Are you going to have issues negotiating with them? Absolutely. Is it going to be cantankerous at times? Absolutely. Doesn't mean you don't do it.
Right.
Doesn't mean you don't do it. And so what do? Let's go ahead and set up a national park. Let's build these lodges here and everything else. And now what's happening, these lodges, 2/3 of them are being sold to foreign owners. There's an Australian company that owns a couple of lodges, a Costa Rican company that owns a couple of lodges, a hedge fund that owns a couple of lodges. And again, we could sit here and fault the lodges and say, it's your fault. It's not. It's not your fault. I get it, right? I mean, this is not about selling your business. Don't sell your business. This isn't about that. This was all post-pandemic. And there are really, there's a variety of reasons, but 3 core reasons why a business is sold, right? 1, you need the money. 2, succession. You've done your part. You want to hand it off. You want to hand it to the next generation. You want to basically get out of the way and let the next generation drive it further. 3, you just had enough. There's no succession plan. You just had enough, and you just want to cash out. You want to enjoy what's left. Your years. You want to enjoy your twilight years and whatnot. And nothing wrong with any of those answers. Nothing wrong with any of them. If the tourism apparatus is understood from the beginning as one where the local community is involved, then those decisions are made jointly, right? If a lodge sells to a foreign entity, there's at least some say in the community that, okay, these are the rights that we have as a community. This is where we're part of the equation. Take a look in Kenya, right? In the Northern Ranges Trust, and again, I'm the first to tell you it's not perfect, but I look at that as an example. Those lodges change hands all the time. They get bought. A Norwegian company just bought a whole collection of lodges in Kenya a few years back, post-pandemic, right? And it's the essence of the property in terms of lodges, in terms of the commitment to the local community, it's still there, stronger than ever, right? Because that was protected. You look at places like Namibia, places like South Africa, places in even other parts of South America. As they get sold, the protection is there. And that's huge, right? I mean, but in Argentina, this wasn't the case, because they were never engaged. right? This just happened. So well, my colleague was just in Chile, and so she had gone and actually spoken to the couple of different lodges. One particular lodge was trying to hire from the community. 200 jobs. Guess how many employees they had from the local community, the Huiliche community? Guess how many out of 200 jobs?
I mean, I'd like to say that at least half. I have a feeling it's not that. Two?
Two.
Two.
Two. Now, when I say that, where does your mind go? Who do you blame for that? You've never been to Chile. Who would you
The
want to
government.
talk to
I
and
mean,
say?
I would blame the local leaders and government. And I mean, I get, but I don't know. Maybe would I? I don't know. Maybe I would blame the owners of the business for not trying harder.
Could be. Do you know what we found out when we talked to the boat owners? The two employees, one's a boat owner, one works in the property. We talked to both of them. This is the part that absolutely I was floored when we talked to them. The boat owner said, well, my family disowned me. I've been excommunicated from my community. They won't let me back. All my friends have disowned me. They won't speak to me because I work for the lodge. They say, you're working for the enemy. You're working for the oppressor. So how dare you work for them? You can't be our friend if you're going to work for them. Really?
Wow.
So you're being disincentivized to come and to be the bridge, right? You're being told, don't bother doing it. Think about that for a second. Think about what that means. Now go forward. Normally what happens when I go to countries, I'll create a list of camps that are locally owned just to try to be able to help the local leaders for my own knowledge, just to be able to have a better understanding of where that is, right? My general rule of thumb is if you are going to a property that says they're locally owned, 85% of the staff should be local. As a general rule of thumb. That's just my rule. Everybody has different ratios, but mine's 85%, right? So you start thinking about that. You start thinking about what that looks like and just what it represents. And you start seeing that there's a disconnect, right? In Kenya, I made a list of all these lodges that are locally owned. I stopped at 100 because there were so many. I made a list in Namibia. I stopped to think at like 85 or 90, whatever it was. It was impressive. I spent 4 months, and it wasn't just me. 3 other people helped me build this list in Chile. You know how many lodges we got? Take a wild guess how many lodges we got in Chile.
I mean, it's a big country. I don't know, 50, 100? 4?
4.
Come on now.
The whole
No.
country. 4 in the whole country.
That's so sad.
Right. And it's because of the fact that you already have this problem with the local communities say, we don't want to work for the lodges. If anybody in our community works for the lodges, they're no longer part of our community. That's just what I'm being told. These are not my words, right? So I'm going to say something that's going to make you uncomfortable. Travel is a privilege, not a right.
That does make me uncomfortable.
But you go ahead and finish that sentence because I've said this before and you finished it in a really good way. So you finish that sentence. Travel is a privilege, but you finish that sentence.
When you say that to me, it makes me feel like that means that it's only for the wealthy and those who are privileged enough to have the money to get to certain places. That's where my head goes when you say that. And
that's not what's intended. That's not what's intended. It's something completely different. And you've said it before. You've talked about the local people and the gift. Why don't you go ahead and repeat?
Well, yeah, I mean, as I think about that, because you've said this more than once, and it's bothered me every time. And finally a light bulb went off. But what I think you mean when you say that is that going to a strange place, right, or a new place, is a privilege. Your presence is a privilege. It's a privilege that you are allowed to be there, that the locals give you that privilege to allow you to see how they live and experience their world. And that's what you mean by privilege. It's not necessarily how much money you have.
Right. Exactly. That's absolutely right. It's a gift that the local people are giving you, right? You have the honor and the privilege of going and learning their way of life. Much like if somebody comes to your home, right, that you are allowing them, when you open the door and say, please come in, you are giving them the honor and the privilege of learning your way of life, right? I don't care if you're inviting them out to lunch to a restaurant, inviting them home for dinner, inviting them to grandma's house, doesn't matter, right? You are giving them a right to your way of life. You're giving them a pass to your inner circle. Mm-hmm. Think about all the people, when you traveled and you were in the expedition world, How many guides did you bond with? Local guides in the country. Did you come back and go, wow,
Oh
that was such
gosh,
a special day?
that was a privilege.
Right.
I mean, those are the people that stick with me, and I still remember so many of them. And that was the precious gift, was having
Right.
that local connection,
Right.
and a
Right.
genuine connection. And you knew the
Right.
difference, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
So now you have a problem in Chile where the way the apparatus is set up, the people who it was actually their right to invite you into their home, it was taken from them. They were never given the chance to invite you into their home. People were just automatically invited, right? Think about this. And this is a message to the Chilean government, and I'm probably getting in trouble for saying it, but what else is new? I seem to get in trouble all the time. So might as well be consistent. So think about this. The Chilean government, you have had now more than a handful of fires in Torres del Paine. Mm-hmm. You have had fires in Patagonia. And those fires are not because of dry weather. Almost every one of them is because of a cigarette butt, because of a fire, because somebody started a little campfire, because there was something that caused it. You know what happened? All the people who worked at the lodges, all the people who were part of the community, whose land you just burned, they were opening up the lodges, say, please, rescue workers, come stay here. Come stay here. Help us protect this land. Mm-hmm. So you've taken land that wasn't theirs. It's no wonder that if you go to inside Torres del Paine National Park, the lodges that are there, brand name lodges, right? Great experiences. They won't hire from the community. They said, no, we don't want to get involved. And I don't blame them. It's not their fight. I don't blame them one bit. I'm sure they would love to. They would love to hire locally, right? But I don't blame them for saying it. No, it's not our fight. Just better not to get involved. Better just to stay quiet, let sleeping dogs lie.
That's a shame.
Because it's not their fight. And that, when I talked to two separate large CEOs who sold their businesses, I had confidential conversations with them. I won't name them on here, but we sit on different boards together, and I had confidential conversations with them. They both told me that problem is becoming way too complicated. We are having a labor shortage. You have the most skilled labor right in front of you with the local community, but they are too ashamed to come and work for you because they believe that in their eyes and their community's eyes, working for you is a lower way of life than what they're doing right now.
That's so sad.
How messed up is that?
That's messed up. They should be the ones who are leading.
Right.
Yeah.
We talk about hiring skilled labor all over the world and how it's a problem all over the world. You have the most skilled labor. Who knows the land better than the people who live there?
Right.
Right. And it's a common issue. And what they basically all said is this problem is becoming too complicated. Now, they didn't come outright and say it, but you could see the tea leaves. Yeah. And say, well, this was clearly a deciding factor in them saying, I don't want to be handling this problem on my own anymore.
Did they have solutions? Did they have idea? I mean, clearly they're out, but are there?
Well, yeah, there's a couple of good solutions that are there, understanding the problem. It's not easy. It's not going to be easy. And we'll talk about that next episode, obviously, because there are solutions that are in place. They range anywhere from embracing that concept and actually building properties in more remote parts of Chile. They go to, being able to actually acknowledge what's happened. Mm-hmm. Right? Acknowledge what's happened. Say what's happened has happened. Say it. It's okay to acknowledge it, right? If something has been done incorrectly to somebody, whether it's our fault or not, it's important to get up and acknowledge it, right?
Yeah.
We talk in this country, this is going to be controversial. We talk about slavery in this country.
Yeah.
Right? We talk about slavery here. And the Indian Slavery Act of 1843 came before the Emancipation Proclamation. So that's part of the conversation in India as well. It doesn't mean I go to every Brit and say, everybody from UK and say, you're my slave owner. You're responsible for it. No, it's happened. Mm-hmm. It's part of the past. We can't pretend it didn't happen, right? When you talk to anybody from Germany, their past has happened. You can't pretend it didn't happen. All you can do is learn from it, but you can't learn from it if you don't actually acknowledge that it happened, right? And I'm not saying that the Tompkins family has to come out and say this. It's not their fault. This was the best of intentions, right? The question being asked locally is, how'd you get the land in the first place to give? Thank you for giving back my land.
Right.
Not a wrong statement.
Right.
But that ire is aimed at the wrong person, right? It's aimed at the wrong way. How do you control that?
Unintended consequences. Here we are again.
Here we are again. Here we are again, unintended consequences, right? What did they do? You were given a magnanimous gift by the Tompkins family. And what did you do? You took it and ran. What did the government do? You took it and ran. How do we make money right now off of this? When actually the whole reason for them to gift the land was not for you to make money. It was to protect the land, to make sure that it couldn't be developed into cities, that the land was protected, the wildlife was protected, the ecosystem was protected. That was the reason for doing it. Pretty noble reason. How do you take that reason and turn it into what it is now? Right? And it's amazing because, again, the solutions also go to guides. Also go to having guides willing to leave Santiago to go learn different parts. And there are some amazing guides in Chile, but Chile is more than just wines. Chile is more than just Santiago. Chile is more than just mountain ranges. Chile is so much more. It's more than the desert. And you know what? There is a separate, I remember we talked about lithium and we talked about how many tons of water it takes, right? 1 million tons of water or 1 million liters of water for 1 ton of lithium. Remember we talked about that ratio, right? In terms of Chile is the second largest deposit of lithium in the world.
Wow.
Up near the Atacama Desert. Think about that. I mean, you've got a couple of different avenues that need to be addressed here. But these are all things that need to be addressed. And so as these lodges are selling out to foreign entities, the problems aren't being addressed.
Yeah.
And if they're not addressed, if you haven't involved the local community in tourism, well, that same local community is about to be taken advantage of again when it comes to mining lithium. You can't fix that unless you fix this. So the solutions do exist. They're there. And there's, again, not easy. They're going to be long. They're going to be drawn out. So it's there, but it needs to be addressed in terms of it. So next episode, we're going to be talking about these solutions. So stay tuned for that.
I'm looking forward to it. You always have such great insight, so I'm here for it.
In the meantime, find your own Bond villain, Cat, sit down in a chair, and repeat after me. No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die. Just kidding. Make sure you're out there. Inspire others the way you want to be inspired.
Yeah. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to The Sustainable Voice. If you have a success story of your own, please reach out and share it with us. Would love to hear from you. See you next time.